Good evening. Welcome to Signature Evening on Signature TV. It's going to be an amazing and exciting time as we have a lot lined up for your watching pleasure. We shall be looking at a one-time presidency, a novel approach, and another conversation we shall be looking at as well is about breastfeeding and the newborn. All of these we shall discuss tonight. All you have to do is just stick around, don't go nowhere. I won't be doing this alone. We've got the beautiful Queensley in the building.
I thought you had forgotten about.
I would never forget about you.
Good evening, viewers. Lovely to have you here join us every single day. Thank you so much for tuning in and staying true with us. Christopher forgot to mention that today we are going to look at the life and times of Christian Chukwu.
Yeah, very important.
Another interesting conversation
Yeah,
that we're going
yeah,
to have tonight.
yeah.
Thank you once again. Don't forget to follow us on all our social media handles. We're always live on YouTube 247 and on SLTV Channel 265. And also we'll have our news and events and political circle as our often featured programs on Signature Evening. After the break, we'll have our interviews for tonight.
We are local.
The international community is observing
Why the main market is in chaos. People are
We are national.
Those in support of this motion as amended, say aye. Aye.
We have taken it by default.
We are international.
Israeli airstrikes.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.
Welcome back. Now we shall be discussing something very crucial. I know many Nigerians must have thought of this. What would it feel like? What would it look like if we have a one-term presidency? You know, not going into the whole, is it 8 years, right? 4.
8 years, yes.
Can we have like one term?
I feel it's this is tricky.
Very.
It's really tricky.
Many Nigerians will fight for this. You know, there are people who feel like if you go one time, the person will want to extort, do everything, and
But
still.
another angle to it. What if during this one term the rule is amazing, so many things were done and put in place, and the people want you to go for a second term? How do you now rectify that? I'm not talking about a situation where people are saying, we hope this man does not rule for the next 8 years. I mean, that's like on a negative part. But when it's on the positive,
Was a very good person,
it was a very good rule.
and they
What's
expect
going
person to still
happen?
come back and continue the good job.
Exactly.
What's going to happen, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. That's why we're having our analysts to join us today to discuss the national youth leadership of course, the one-time presidency, and also from a novel approach. And this is not a person than Anselm Aregbe. Good evening and welcome. All right, so he is going to join us as we discuss this and know again angles that we are going to look into. At the moment, it's not available. So
Okay,
if
so-
you were to come in for one time and then you did well,
Let me tell you something funny about Nigerian politics. I feel
Okay.
like whenever you become president or you hold a significant position, the first term is to recover the money you've spent during campaigns and elections. Then the second term is when you come to just fill up the seat for another 4 years.
okay, can I change that narrative for you?
Okay.
I think from one perspective, the first time you come in, if you're wise, it's not the time for you to, hustle and no. It's the time to do the good work. Because that's what will bring you back. The
To be very
bringing you
honest,
back
Chris,
is when you.
I disagree with you, Chris,
Okay.
because it's like an unwritten rule in Nigeria that it's in just serious cases that you don't see people go for the second term and win it. But most times, whenever you have like a sitting governor, most times or all the time, they always come out to win for the second term. And I think that's because they've already established their office in the first term. They have their people in the grassroots and all that. So you know your way around your office currently. So I feel that's the only reason why they could sustain till the second term.
So what you are saying is that the first term is when they come to get the money and cover up for the lapses,
Exactly.
the loss.
I mean,
Then
they
the second
spent a
time is
lot
when they try to
during-
ginger to do something, to look back like they
Exactly.
did something.
Or
From-
it could be the other way around. It could be the first time is to
I-
do the job, and then
do
the
the
second
job,
term
you
because
relax.
you've
Yes.
actually won the hearts of people.
Yeah.
So the second term
you
now,
know that you're no longer coming back.
exactly. So you just want to enjoy
this time to just keep all
yourself.
the money so they don't go stranded and go broke.
Okay. We are not saying it from an I too know point of view.
It's just opinion.
It's just
Okay.
opinion.
Yes, we have our guest right back with us, Aslem Iragbe. Welcome.
Signature
Are you there?
Television, Iragbe Anslem. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you. Really great to have you with us. We shall be looking at the
My pleasure,
one-term
always.
presidency from a novel approach. We'd like to get your point of view. Quincy and I, we were arguing. She was thinking if you came in as a president and then you did well, if people love you and it's time for you to go. If we are looking at it from the angle of one time, what effect will it have on Nigerians if you are not to come back? And then what if you're a bad person, and then you just take advantage of you're already there. You guys didn't want
What's
me
the
in.
worst that could happen?
You guys didn't want me in. I go show an a pepper. But you have to run straight, be it 6 a year or whatever. So let's just get your thoughts, just introductorily. Let's get your thoughts on the one-time presidency.
Well, thank you, Comrade Iragbe Anslem, the immediate past National Youth Leader of Labour Party in Nigeria and a member of the Labour Party National Working Committee. The matter you have raised, one-term presidency. In this instance, there is a peculiarity, really. The peculiarity is because the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria ideally provided for a maximum of 2 terms of 4-year tenure each, making it a maximum for an individual or a single president per time, to the extent that such a president can win a rerun or a re-election. But however, that's one side of the argument. The other side of the argument is the fact that in Nigeria, there is this understanding that as much as the presidency has a maximum tenure of 8 years, for 4 years, there's also this unwritten zoning and rotation of political power equation between the northern Nigeria and the southern Nigeria, to the extent that no side of the divide per time is able to spend beyond 8 years. So if you put that into proper context, in this scenario where we have the city president who is from southern Nigeria, His Excellency President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who is presently running a 4-year term in office, to the fact that there is this agitation that power ideally within the southern bloc should have rotated. Having recourse to the fact that if you look at the southern occupation, President Olusegun Obasanjo has had the privilege of being in office democratically for 8 years. His Excellency President Jonathan from South-South, however, former President Olusegun Obasanjo from Southwest, former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan from South-South had the privilege for 5 years in office. Now, because there are 3 political power zones in the southern part of Nigeria, it's expected that for equity, for fairness, and for balance, the next shot at presidency in Nigeria should ideally have gone to the southeast. Now, but because the city president, President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is from southern Nigeria primarily and from southwest, now the agitations now are such that another southerner is tend to occupy the office of the president. It then means that person ideally will need to reach a consensus and understanding to say he or she cannot do beyond 4 years in office. And so it's on this premise that His Excellency Peter Obi made it very clear to say, you didn't get the ticket and get the support of Nigerians, and be elected as a president come 2027. It's not going to go beyond 4 years. The reason for that is so that at the end of 4 years, which will be 2031, the North, ideally, power should return to northern Nigeria. So it is political, but for this to be made manifest, there has to be confidence building. There has to be a measure of trust. This time, not by words of mouth, because there's an instance where, for instance, in 2011, President Jonathan, Vice President or Acting President Jonathan came to power as president with the thinking that after that 4 years, he will hand over so that or allow a transition such a way that northern Nigeria can occupy. But you know, that did not happen. So I'm saying this to say, should His Excellency Peter Obi, for instance, pick the ticket and he needs guarantee votes to be assured of victory, then it must be said that the North must be able to come into a very concrete alliance and understanding to say, yes, at the end of 4 years, you will transit in such a way that you will leave, you will not contest. So it's possible to the extent that first, Peter Obi himself or some other persons can be committed to it from southern Nigeria. Two, to the extent that the northern Nigeria can find that person worthy of their votes and support. And three, to the extent that there should be written agreement and understanding, such that the North does not support you. When it comes to the time for you to leave, you say no, because you are sitting president, you will not leave. So these are the scenarios. So they are painted, they are worthy of consideration. Thank you, and God bless you.
If peradventure the one-time presidency system is adopted, do you think that this would help in curbing the issue of corruption and other vices?
Well, but basically, I have a different idea, an opinion about how Nigeria, the political structure of Nigeria. I'm a proponent of first a restructuring. I'm a proponent of a restructured federation. So I'm a proponent of a new kind of political structure or system for Nigeria. Because Nigeria is a massive country that whose political structure needs to be decentralized. So it is either we go for a hybrid political structure or a parliamentary system with a hybrid structure, where, for me, first and foremost, we should have a minimum of 8 regions. Now, first and foremost, Nigeria has to be returned to the regional government as a confederation. Then two, the political structure will be such that we have prime minister and president. Now, such that if we have a president, ideally we have 8 vice presidents. Now, we rotate the presidency within the tenure of this single tenure, maybe 6 years, single tenure, or 8 years, as it may be, so that if we have 8 vice presidents, now they can take turns, maybe yearly. The South-South, for instance, will have a vice president who will be elected from that region. First and foremost, it will be economically wise for the nation, economically, because if you know the amount of money involved in conducting campaigns as a presidential candidate across Nigeria, is massive. Two, so that we can now limit some of this expenditure to the regions. First, let us have regional government. Two, let us have political structure so that we can have 8 vice presidents, 1 for each region. 3, let each of these presidents take turn at the central government to become president every year. Then 4, the parliamentary system of government to be such that we have the prime minister, and similarly we elect, let's say, 8 prime ministers from the regions, for which they will take turn annually to rotate the prime minister office to north and south. So that if year 1 in the 6 or 8 year tenure, Somebody from South is the vice president, is not president for 1 year. There's somebody from the north to be the prime minister. That's the vice prime minister to become prime minister. Now, this system of government will go down, but the essence of this government will be for economic development. Now, it's what they call resource control. Because I know the tension that brought about in Nigeria, but we may choose not to use the word resource control, but we need to go to a resource economy where we can measure on the comparative advantages and endowment of each region. For instance, if your region is endowed with solid minerals, let that region explore and exploit that endowment and keep, say, a considerable percentage of not less than 50% and contribute 50 to the center. Similarly, if you're agriculturally endowed with arable land, you do the same thing, like that, like that, like that. Now, if you now dovetail into job creation, education, healthcare provision, security. Now, security architecture will be to the extent that where the regions at this level can have major control of their security. But we still have a national security that will oversee at those levels. So this way we begin to develop governance, develop power, develop development. So it's smaller units. So for me, this is the structure I would propose for Nigeria. In terms of constitutional amendment, of course, the nation is still one. The nation ideally will remain one as it were, but the economic structures, the political structures, and other structures will have to be developed for effectiveness, one in administration, in governance, and in delivery, service delivery. So this is the approach I want to talk from.
Thank you so much.
And the way forward.
Let's look at the effects of this one-term presidency on the decision process of the president, particularly regarding prioritizing short-term and long-term goals, policies. How do you think this will play out?
Well, of course, you are aware because we are in Nigeria, and today we have a sitting government under the APC, for which His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is the president. And the Constitution permits him to run for a second term in office. And you are now aware that he is already in full gear for that purpose, warming up towards 2027. So it will virtually be impossible to be able to convince this National Assembly or this government to toe that path. It is already too late in the day. But yet, it is not impossible. However, like His Excellency Peter Obi said, which former Governor Rotimi Amechi also told, the party also told, to say, give me the presidency, I will do 4 years and I will deliver. Now, let us come to the aspect of delivery. Why is it become almost impossible to deliver on campaign promises? First and foremost, delivery has to do with having a very clear mind and policy trust and direction for the nation and budgeting. Now, it means if you are coming for 4 years and you are sure that in 4 years you'll be able to deliver, then you come prepared. So part of the preparation should be you have a 4-year budget proposal that will account for your forecast, like revenue generation, employment generation, healthcare, education, all of the issues that involve or rotate around governance. Now, you make your budget in such a way, if you are going to seek a loan, and this loan to be sought ideally, should be invested. Now, you see, when a country where we borrow money to pay salaries, it shouldn't be so. Even though salaries are very important and should be paid as at when due. Now, it should be such that, first and foremost, let us know what are the budgets for the economy revitalization, economic repositioning. What are the aspects? Agricultural mechanization, plants, animal husbandry and processes, solid mineral mining and development, export, processing and export of goods and services, and so many other aspects of economic life. Now, you should be able to know from your analysis to say, because we're a country of a say 230 million people, you can make a lot of projection. If 230 million people feed a day, and from the investment we are making say 10 naira per person per meal, or 100 naira, maybe because of the state of the economy and inflation, and you project say 300 naira profit per day per person by 230 million people by 7 days, 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, 4 years. Now, you see, you would have had a very reasonable projection economically to further stabilize your going concern as time moves on. But we don't have all of these plans. We don't have all of these strategies. So we just have a situation where budgets are made every year. The elements of that budget are budgeted for year in, year out. And the items in the budget are captured, and there are recurrent budgeting for such similar expenses that are probably not executed. So these are issues. So this gives rise to humongous corruption, as we have seen. So we now have a country where you have over 230 million people, and over 98% of this population, estimated population number, are unemployed. So the statistics should reveal that this year, the federal government, the state government, the local government cumulatively have been able to create this sustainable level of employment to this ratio, 5%. Next year, additional 5%. Next year, additional 5%. In 4 years, we'll have created an employment for, say, 20 million of the population. And if you factor 20 million population gainfully employed productively, I'm not talking of office jobs, I'm talking of productive engagement, productivity, production, processes, manufacturing, export, all of these details. Now, you can begin to now say, okay, this president who is coming for 4 years, who has brought out a very clear policy direction with this projection for how many people he can engage, how many roads can be constructed, how many dams can be created, how many power plants can be installed, how many roads can be. So, these are the financial details, such that even if we need to now borrow, we now know we are borrowing to invest, but because there are going to be return on investment, we'll be able to recoup investment and to pay back loans and their interest over a certain time. So, if we have a presidential candidate who has a very clear policy direction in some of the areas I have listed, and is well articulated and presented, now Nigerians can look at that. On the basis of this, there will be landmark achievements. So this president will not come for the sake of power mongering, to come for 4 years, 8 years. He did not employ people, he did not create jobs, he did not generate resources, you are holding debts, corruption is increasing, budgeting and over-invoicing, or non-implementation of budget elements. So, the direction will now be fine. Let me speak for Peter Obi as it were, because he has already made a policy statement to say, just give me 4 years, support me for 4 years, for 2 reasons. One, to begin to rebuild the economy. That's what he said, that in 4 years, I'll be able to lay a foundation for the proper rebuilding of this economy. Then 2, because by 2031, power is ideally supposed to go back to northern Nigeria. So that if I serve for 4 years, to complete this other 4 years, I will leave. Then 3, the issue of trust. So with all of these elements in place, now the other parts of the country can begin to see reason. By the time they begin to go through its policy framework, how it tends to rejig the economy, to create jobs, to create wealth within 4 years, and to live. So, for me, I think these are the issues, but in the days ahead, I can speak for Peter Obi at this level because he has already made this policy statement to say, I need 4 years to rebuild this economy. So, but in the days ahead, as we go for the primaries in the coalition, all of these details, Labour Party is already in that line to say, the next president for Nigeria should ideally come from southern Nigeria, but in such a way that he'll be able to do the next 4 years. Not minding what the constitution stipulated, but because in constitution, you also have what called convention. So the convention will now be because the people of northern Nigeria and southern Nigeria have agreed to support southern Nigeria to complete the remaining 4 years. But however, we need a presidential candidate that will have capacity to be able to deliver on grants A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H. So for me, it's tenable, it is doable. So these are some of the line of reasoning.
All right, thank you so much. It's a good thing that you mentioned your superior, the boss. That's the presidential candidate for the Labour Party 2023 general election. He made a statement that made other parties, to react. He said he was going to serve for just a term, 4 years, and he was going to do all of the magic in 4 years, which many people believe was a political statement. Because people are not coming from the angle of being selfish, but people are just coming from how can you achieve a lot in just 4 years? You know how before you open your eye, a year has come. The next year, 3 years. And in 4 years, you can meet up all of the magic. It sounds like a political statement. But now the question is, you were the former, the national youth leader of Labour Party, okay? As a former national youth leader of Labour Party, what is Labour Party doing to push this one-time presidency to the Constitution? The Constitution review is around the corner. They are still deliberating and working on it. What is this party doing? Since the Labour Party presidential candidate for 2023 believes so much in the one-term presidency, what is the party doing to bring this to the Constitution?
Okay, thank you very much. Now, let me have a recourse to the 2014 confab. I think I'm right. 2014, yeah. The confab. Now, His Excellency President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan handed that document to President Muhammadu Buhari, I think a day or two or so, to the handover in May 29, 2015. Now, in that document contained some of the agitations that have read themselves or read their faces in our national discourse. One, the issue of single tenure, the issue of political power zoning and rotation, the issue of devolution of power and the system of government to be adopted eventually. Now, for Labour Party, as it were, I cannot tell you right now that the Labour Party has made any meaningful input into the constitutional amendment that is ongoing. I'm saying this because of this crisis that bedeviled the party before now. We are just waiting for the final resolution of those crises. Like you are aware, that the Supreme Court gave a landmark judgment on the 4th of April 2025, and the National Executive Council of the Labour Party only on the 18th of July, about 2 weeks ago, had met and had resolution for the implementation to be implemented by the INEC. So, but however, that is not to say that the statement His Excellency Peter Obi made concerning his inquisition for a single tenure, that the party leadership under Senator Nenadi Esther Osman is oblivious. No, we are not oblivious. If you have followed some of our interviews, even far ahead before His Excellency even made that statement, you will find out that I had made such statements earlier, and again, under auspices like the South-North Progressive Forum, we equally pushed that position to say let the 2027 presidency remain in southern Nigeria for the reason that the South should retain power for the remaining next 4 years to 2031. And we also said let the power in southern Nigeria also rotate from southwest to probably south-south or southeast, so that other parts of the south-south can benefit from this sharing within these 8 years. So, with His Excellency making such a bold statement to say, I will do 4 years, of course, you agree with me that the Labour Party, this is now part of the Labour Party's policy framework and direction going forward. To the extent, even if we've not had the privilege of making this input before now, you cannot be rest assured that the Labour Party will now make this proposition for constitutional amendment to reflect a single tenure, probably for 4 years, probably for 5 years, probably for 6 years. But it's just that the circumstance in this instance will have to be for 4 years, because we cannot now bend the rules to 2027 general election, because we already have. But should it be passed now, for instance, except if the National Assembly adopts such a position and passes such a position before the 2027 general election, then the law becomes proactive, such that the single tenure cannot be adopted, probably with the zoning and rotation to say, okay, the Constitution of Nigeria now says the presidency will now be a single tenure of 4 or 5 or 6 years to be zoned and rotated. So this point I've just made now is to say, because the constitutional amendment is already ongoing, but should the National Assembly accept or adopt this position, that it will be stipulated against the number of years. So which means if National Assembly passes this bill ahead of 2027 for implementation, then that means both His Excellency Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Peter Obi, all of them will have the privilege of doing just one more single tenure of the number of years to be approved in the constitutional amendment. So this is another way to look at it. So, but in the days ahead, like I said, immediately we are settled, the Labour Party will lend its voice officially by leadership as their own input or contribution to the amendment bills that have been submitted, because there are still windows, or probably we join the bandwagon effect, depending on the point at which we meet the stage as a party to make our input or contribution. But certainly we will be in support of anything that will make governance very proactive in Nigeria. And more so because, you see, it's not, to deliver, it's not a function of how many years. You can be in the presidency for God knows how many years, and you are not able to deliver. So it's a function of the policy trust. What is your policy trust and its direction? What are your financial projections for implementation and execution of your programs? So what are the assessments they are going to come out of some of these policy frameworks? What are the capacity and caliber of men and women that are going to work with you? You see, it's about time we begin to appointments be based on round peg in round hole. People that have been distinguished in terms of service delivery, not just academically, for instance, to have the rare privilege to serve in their area of core competencies. For instance, you are appointing, let's say, ministers into different ministries. For God's sake, these things should not be entirely political. Track record, experience, capacity, capabilities should be some of the accompaniment or the condiments that will go with this appointment. What are your track records? What have you done? What have you achieved previously? However little. Of course, we could extrapolate your little efforts in the past by way of extrapolation to say, okay, if you could do A, B, C, D at an A, B, C, then you can do X, Y, Z if given the opportunity. But today we have people, because probably they funded campaigns, that became the basis upon which they are appointed into juicy ministry Juicy ministry because they need to go and steal. Yes, I'm using this word without caution. Because they need to go and mismanage the nation's scarce resources and probably save them for the next election cycle. Not how to create jobs, not how to develop the people, not how to develop the system. So, in a nutshell, the idea of the single tenor is an idea also whose time has come. Remember, like I began to say, that in Nigeria, everybody wants to be there. That is why the North and South today cannot wait for anybody, one of them, to be booted out. The North is ideally agitating for His Excellency Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu to be booted out almost immediately. If they have their way right now, they will boot him out and sit there. But for us to truly develop, the Constitution needs to come in handy. Let us do it. Single tenor, maybe 4 years. For me, 4 years enough. There is nothing any president of Nigeria is doing beyond 4 years. Nothing. There is nothing any of them is doing beyond 4 years. So let it be 4 years, in and out, zoning and rotation. Between North, between South. And let there be micro zoning within the region, such that if you came to South previously and somebody from Southwest had the privilege of becoming president, the next time it is coming to South, people from South and Southeast be allowed to contest, such that when we win, but the next time is coming, then the entire people from South, for instance, will not be the one to contest. So that way, there will be directional political power zoning and rotation and occupation, similarly for Northern Nigeria. But like I said, but to give rise to ease of all of this, let us restructure the governance system, like I said earlier. So that rather than voting for president, we vote for vice presidents from our respective regions. So these vice presidents will now come to the center, for which annually one of them will become president for 1 year. And to be rotated to the other region like that, like that, like that, like that, like that. At the end of the 10 or maybe 4 years or 6 years or 8 years, they all go away. So this is my line of thinking. And I think by the time the Labour Party begins to look into this, they will probably fine-tune some of the points I have made and come out clearly with the policy thrust and direction of the party.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Anselm. Thank you. It's really, you've said a lot on that very one. Thank you so much. But then some Nigerians may, wonder, let's still look at the statement from the presidential candidates of the Labour Party. If you are coming for a term, to do what others do in 2 terms, what is the actual possibility of achieving the necessary goals in just 1 term? And 1 term, we're looking at 4 years. What can one possibly do within 4 years? Let's keep aside corruption. Okay, let's keep aside the other political statements, but let's look at reality. Do you think one can achieve what others achieve in 8 years within 4 years?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Let me now talk straight. Now, we have, my company, CG's Properties Limited, we have a policy trust and framework, and this policy trust is before the government of Nigeria. This document is submitted to the Presidency, is submitted to the DSS, to the EFCC, to the NIA, to the CBN, to Attorney General of Federation, and respective key ministries of the government of Nigeria, to say, as private, as limited liability company, who have global funding partners, because the contracts we have and the evidence we have is before the relevant authorities in Nigeria, to say we, from what we have done, are in a position to support some of these initiatives for our people as a country. Are you with me? And we have designed clear frameworks with cost-benefit analysis to say from what we have or have achieved, 35 million Nigerians can be engaged productively all within a record period of 12 months. And we can keep them in that engagement with a minimum salary of 125,000 monthly for a long period of time. Now, why I'm telling you this is to say, this is how to come about this matter. First and foremost, who are you working with? Locally, globally. What is your policy direction and trust? What is the framework? What are the financial details that will give rise to you achieving this target you have set for yourself? So say, Peter Obi has said, give me 4 years. And in 4 years, I will deliver. So the point I'm making with that is to say, Peter Obi will now show, he has a framework, he has a policy, trust, and direction that will show how within these 4 years, he will be able to create total millions of jobs, sustainable jobs, that's one. Two, be able to bring in investors to invest, because the whole idea here is not about how much Nigeria as a country has in stock. It's about the goodwill that Nigeria can benefit from. Are you with me? Such that there are investors who are ready to invest in agriculture, mechanization. They are ready. The government will create the enabling environment for them to bring in those funds and to invest. Others are interested in investing in the oil sector, refineries, petrochemical plants, and otherwise. Others are interested in investing in mining to engage. So this is how to go about it. Others are interested in investing in power. So at the onset, every presidential candidate that has such a tension, like I said, so His Excellency Peter Obi will be able to provide these clear details to say, before I began to aspire, I've been able to achieve this cooperation with partner A, B, C, D in the US, in the UK, in China, in Asia, and other parts of the world. And these partners can invest this. So within 4 years, we will have been able to attract social foreign direct investment into the nation to create XYZ amount of engagement, productivity. So that within this record time, the return on investment within this record time would have accounted and amounted to A, B, C, D. So at the end of 4 years, I would have been able to at least measurably achieve this target. Create, like I said, my company with our foreign investors, with what we have done from 2011 to date, are able to invest monies in Nigeria, and they can create 35 million jobs within this record time. So this thing I've said now, we have this document written to the government of Nigeria to say, as private investors, this is our own private initiative and level of contribution to Nigeria as our country for the benefit of fellow men, fellow women, boys and girls, the economy of our country, and for its progress. So if at our level, we can conceive and pursue this, you can imagine what Nigeria as a nation can achieve. So, but for Nigeria to achieve that, you now need a president who will think out of the box before coming to office to say, this is my policy, trust, and direction, and my party. You vote for us, we come in, we implement. But what we can do as the people is to say, even before we even give you support, we need to appraise all of these details. We need to look at your documents. We need to do the analysis, both its cost-benefit analysis and otherwise, as experts. We look at the reality of them. Then we can now say, fine, let's give it a trial. Let's give it a shot. So this is how to go about it. So So I have said it, there is nothing extraordinary about 8 years. I want to strongly support a constitutional amendment that will limit the presidency of Nigeria to a single tenure, not more than 4 years. All the issue of 5 years, 6 years, those are forget it. 4 years, zoning, rotation. But however, let party, for instance, the Labour Party is a party. The idea of social democracy is for enhanced welfare and well-being. So a welfare state is that in which the government will make investment in its people, in its economy, and otherwise. Now, subsidy. The idea of subsidy is for a social state, a welfare state. That is what it should be. But it's just because the subsidy on crude oil or petroleum industry, was abused. We now had a situation where people were no more implementing subsidies, but rather over invoicing. For instance, they bring a batch, a vessel of, let's say, PMS. They will over invoice. If the vessel, cost for vessel, let's say, is $50 million, if it arrives successfully, you'll be surprised that they will invoice that same invoice more than 15, 20 times. So that became the subsidy scam. And because of that scam, the resources of the economy, of the people, the nation were pilfered, were stolen. So that was the agitation about subsidy removal. What I'm saying, as a country, as a party, the Labour Party will advocate social democracy such that we subsidize agriculture, we subsidize education, we subsidize healthcare, we improve the wages or salaries of workers at all levels, because the federal government has enough resources, but because these resources are not deployed appropriately through investment and reinvestment, so these excess monies we have are rather stolen through invoicing and over-invoicing. So these are the issues. So I want to strongly support His Excellency Peter Obi on his one-term agenda proposal to say that is the right way to go. It is the right way to go. He has just told you what else will you be looking for beyond 4 years. But let it be documented and let it be signed upon. So let the North agree with him to say, now let power remain in southern Nigeria. Okay, this man, even though President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu will not go beyond 2031, for instance, should he win the second tenure? But at that point should be emphatic and made clear. Himself cannot go beyond 2031. Now, Peter Obi, should he win, himself cannot go beyond 2031. But the only way Peter Obi will not go beyond 2031 is to have an agreement, a written agreement, so that it doesn't come after winning. He will now renege to say, because I'm now president, the constitution says I can occupy if I win for the next tenure. Then another political crisis will now raise its head in the country, where another level of unrest will come in. Because we like it, we don't like it, believe it or not, the part of the reasons for the insurgency in this country have to do with the presidency of Nigeria. Who occupied it at what time and who needed to occupy it next. So there has to be a lot of arm twisting, either by way of insurgency or otherwise, to create a room for negotiation. So we can achieve all of this negotiation on the table going forward by making it very explicit. One term, single tenure, zoning, rotation, directional political power, zoning, and rotation. Not that when the power comes to South, only one region will be occupying it. No. If it comes now and a region occupies, the next time it is coming, the other regions will have the privilege of contesting and winning and also occupying until the last region too has had the privilege of contesting and occupying. Then you find out that there will be peace. There will be political peace, there will be political stability, both in northern Nigeria and in southern Nigeria. But in summary, like I said, what will matter in all of the things we are saying going forward in Nigeria will now be the policy direction for the country and for everybody to say, Peter B, you are coming, let us see your document. How do you intend to deliver in 4 years so that we can trust you with this power for 4 years? And be sure that we can also work with you within these 4 years to ensure that the targets are met. Because when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu came, Adiza, Bala Usman, I think part of our duties, I don't know if she still does that now, was on the needs assessment to be able to assess the MDAs to the extent of their performance. To the extent that if you have not met your target within certain quarters or certain period, I mean, you will exit. So those are some of the checks or verbs, that should be put in place going forward.
Hello, can you hear me?
Thank you
much
so
for
much.
the contribution so far. Our time is already far spent. It was an amazing conversation with you tonight, Mr. Anselm. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Thank you always. Iragbe Anselm, the immediate past
All right,
national
then.
leader of Labour Party.
All right, then. After the timeout, we'll have our next conversation for tonight.
Thank you.
We are local.
The international community is observing every
Rotimi market is in chaos. People are
We are national.
Those in support of this motion as amended, say aye.
we have taken the bill by default.
We are international.
Israeli airstrikes.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment.
After all, they no go beat us for talking. Now that will be that. Now that one conversation. So here is.
Signature TV, news in your pocket.